Our tale begins in the kingdom of Alagaesia, a land once protected by noble dragon riders. But those days are long gone, shattered when Galbatorix, a rider turned traitor, betrayed his kin and seized the throne. Now his rule is absolute, and hope is but a flicker in the hearts of the oppressed. Today we are going to recap the story of the movie Eragon from 2005. Galbatorix, who is restless as his valuable stone was stolen from him by a young girl named Arya, princess of the Elf Kingdom and the ally of the Varden, the freedom fighters who fled to the mountains after their rebellion was crushed by Galbatorix. Galbatorix ordered his second-in-command Durza a Shade, to bring back what was stolen from him. He hunts her down and attacked her and her horsemen in the middle of the forest. She was surrounded by a fire magically created by Durza. He asked her to give him the stone, but she refused and uses her magic to cast the stone far away. The stone appeared near a forest, and was found by a farm boy named Eragon, who set out to hunt a deer. At the village, royal guards are recruiting soldiers from every village. A man is begging the officers not to take his son because he knows they never return. Eragon tries to trade the stone for a cut of meat. He says he found it while hunting in the forest. The butcher looked terrified and told him to put it back, that it must belong to the king, and kicks him out. Outside, the guards are bullying a man named Brom, who pulls a knife and then had second thought letting them take his poultry. Eragon is amused seeing someone stand up to them. Eragon gets home from the hunt empty-handed and is teased about it by his cousin Roran. The boys play around for a while pretending to be warriors. Once he was done, Eragon brings out the mysterious stone out of his bag to inspect it, but he's not able to learn much. While they were working in the fields together, Roran tells his cousin Eragon that he's leaving the farm. He wants to be gone before the soldiers come for him since he's old enough now and he doesn't want to serve in the king's army. At night, Eragon has a conversation with his uncle Garrow about Roran leaving. He says to Eragon he must be prepared because he'll soon be old enough as well and will have to make a decision. He says he likes the farm and doesn't want to leave. Then he takes the opportunity to ask about his mother, Garrow's sister. We learned she left Eragon when he was little. Roran leaves in the morning with sad goodbyes. Eragon feels lonely and all alone in his farm with no one to play with, but that won't last much longer as we see the mysterious stone begin to hatch. It turns out it was actually an egg. This little blue creature comes out of it. Eragon begins to wonder if it's a bird. The touch of the animal on his hand had a spark of bright light which seems to be felt across the kingdom by Brom, Arya and Galbatorix. We can see Durza didn't get that memo. He's still interrogating Arya about the stone, and she says it's too late, that the baby dragon has hatched. The spiral shape is now burnt onto Eragon's palm. Not very good at parenting, he pours milk into a bag trying to feed the baby. He finds out he prefers to prey on a rat. At the castle, Durza brings the bad news to the king. He says the egg hatched to a stupid farm boy. Galbatorix replied to him that the person is irrelevant. The baby dragon is a threat to his power because he confirms an old legend and orders Durza for Eragon's elimination. Durza creates beings called Razik with his dark powers to go after Eragon. At night, Eragon overhears a villager named Horst complaining that his sons has been taken by the king's soldier and haven't heard of them since. Some of the other men tries to shush him, afraid of the snooping guards around. But Brom is there too and won't miss the chance to stir things up, and starts to talk about the good old days when dragons were still around and the riders were invincible. It all ended with Galbatorix with his rule of terror. Just as predicted, one of the guards comes to shut him up. Eragon wants to hear the end of that story, but all Brom can say is that the dragon age will come again. Hopefully now Eragon has an idea what that blue creature is. It's not long before baby dragon becomes teen dragon. Eragon tries to teach her how to fly. Luckily, she doesn't even need his help. Just when he begins to wonder if she's gone forever, he feels a sting on his palm. Up on the cloud, lightning bolt seems to speed up her growth. Eragon was surprised when baby dragon comes back to him full grown and was quite chatty, talking to him through telepathy, saying to him her name was Saphira, and Eragon is her rider. So, he takes the opportunity to sneak into Brom's home to know more about dragon breeding. The man tells him to mind his corner and get lost. This is no topic for farm boy. Eragon then tells him before storming out that he knows the dragon stories is true. Brom looks intrigued now as he checks out the fancy sword he keeps hidden. When Eragon leaves the house, he can tell that something is wrong in the village. There's a strange visitor at the butcher's. Eragon comes close and hears his own name. The butcher is telling his violent guest all about Eragon as well as the location of his uncle's farm. He runs to warn his uncle, but Saphira gets to him first. Eragon yells that his uncle is in danger, but she says it's too late now, that there's nothing he can do but to save himself. But Eragon fights against the idea, and seems to suck at dragon riding. Saphira drops him at a heap of hay, saying he's giving her no choice. Eragon rushing into the house, seeing she wasn't lying to him, it really is too late. Now Eragon is mad at Saphira because he could have made it on time to save Uncle Garrow if it wasn't for her. She explained he would be dead too if she hadn't intervened, but Eragon is too sad to listen and sends her away. Then Braum shows up to check Eragon's palm, immediately asking where the dragon is. As Eragon refused to go with him before giving his uncle a proper burial, Braum simply sets the place on fire. Then he puts Eragon up on a horse and leads the way. After riding for a long time, they stop at the middle of the woods. Braum tells Eragon to call the dragon, but Eragon says it's all her fault. Braum explains to Eragon that Saphira was simply protecting him from Durza and the assassins he sent after him. He also tells him about the Vardens and their stronghold at the Furthen Dur Mountains. Finally convinced, Eragon calls Saphira and apologizes for his behavior before introducing Braum as a dragon expert. Saphira says she'll be the judge of that, thank you very much, but as he goes on to access the specimen, it's easy to see his profound admiration. Now these two are friends. He tells Eragon he has a duty now. According to Braum, a dragon egg only hatches in the presence of a rightful rider, and they are both connected forever. But well, the rider cannot leave his path. No dragon survives its rider, that his life is in great danger because the king also knows all this stuff and will get rid of Saphira, that he won't choose an opponent that breathe fire over who plants corn. Back at the castle, the Urgles are so terrified as their master appears in the room announcing that a Razik has failed to slay the rider. Durza selects one of them to get the job done. Braum seems to be very familiar with Durza and his games, so he predicts that move. He has Eragon to tell Saphira to keep checking for Urgles and Razik as they try to reach the mountains undetected. He also says she must only come to them at night. After go, then riding towards the Tirm River, halfway there they see a group of Urgles, and Braum says this were former rebels but now are the king's minions. Instead of getting out of their way as soon as possible, Eragon has the brilliant idea to fight them. He's proud to inform Braum that he used to train with his cousin Roran and should be ready for a real battle now. So Braum takes some few hours to put the boy in his place, and to warn him that he won't be fighting little boys. As night falls and Saphira joins them, Braum starts a fire for them. Eragon can hear him say something right before the first spark comes, but Braum has no comment about it. The next day, they reach the village of Tirm when a young man seems to be spying on them. Braum says he has errands to run and tells Eragon not to talk to anyone. Of course, he immediately goes into a tent and talks to a pretty girl. Her name is Angela, and she offers to read his fortune and tells him he's destined for greatness. When he leaves the tent, Urgles are waiting for him. Braum fights them off bravely, but it's Eragon who saves them both with the same word Braum used to make fire. He shoots an arrow of wildfire that blows them all up, then he passes out. In the morning, he wakes up with his hand burning. Then Braum explains what happened last night, that Eragon used the ancient language of the elves casting a fire spell. He warns him about the dangers and limitations of magic, also tells him other magic words, and is very proud of him, and to show it, he has a surprise for him. Saphira shows up with a saddle, and this time he does much better at riding. Well, poor Braum screams instructions from the ground. After several while maneuvers, Eragon tries a spell that makes him and Saphira see as one. That's how he spots a bunch of Raziks about to ambush Braum and comes down to rescue him. They manage to defeat the enemy, but Saphira is injured and Braum is furious. Eragon then grabs his hand and finds out that Braum was once a rider too. His dragon died trying to protect him from Morzan, a rider who had switched to Galbatorix's side. Braum made sure he paid for what he did, and even took his sword, which is a dragon killer. But Morzan's dragon was the last one apart from the royal dragon. Braum has lived with that guilt ever since. Meanwhile, Durza is getting tired of his incompetent underlings. He decides it's time to work smart, not hard. Penetrating Eragon's dream, he pretends to be Arya, princess of elves. Fake Arya says she's a prisoner at Gilead, and Eragon is the only one who can save her. That plan works beautifully. Refusing to listen to Braum or even Saphira, Eragon is now hellbent in saving Arya from the Evil Sorcerer, even if that means going the opposite direction of the Varden. So he flies to Gilead, waits until night, and then sneaks into the castle. Using the Dragon Sight spell, he can easily see through the walls and soon finds the girl. When the real Arya sees him there, she tells him to leave, that he shouldn't have come here. Eragon is confused to hear that. But the trap is soon explained by Durza coming out of the shadow. A brief magic battle begins, but Eragon can already see he's way over his head, coming out of nowhere. Braum jumped in front of an arrow to save Eragon. Eragon shoots Durza with an arrow to the head, but he smiles, says it's not over yet. Eragon and Arya carry Braum through Gilead. While trying to fight the guards, Saphira comes to the rescue, and she's not the only one. A strange hooded boy, up on the roof shooting arrows at the guards and helping them escape. Saphira takes them as far as she can with much crowd on her back. Eragon tries to heal Braum with magic but doesn't make it. Saphira gives him a dragon rider funeral and they all say goodbye. It looks like Arya is Eragon's new partner now, but as they get ready for their journey she falls ill all of a sudden, poisoned by Durza. The sorcerer could still reach her from wherever he was hiding. The Varden is their only hope now. Arya places her hand on Eragon's face to show him the way to them. When he was back from the head trip, Saphira drops down what looks like a load of black cloths but turns out to be a person. In fact, it's that hooded boy from Gilead. His name is Murtaugh. King Galbatorix made him an orphan and he's been waiting for the legendary return of the Dragon Rider ever since. Eragon and Saphira aren't sure they can trust this guy. But he says he knows his way through the mountains, and he can get them to the Varden. They ride through all kinds of inhospitable places, leaving Arya in Saphira's care. She warns them that Urgles are closing in. When the boys reach a waterfall, they jump into the water and swim towards a secret cave where they were greeted by heavily armored soldiers. At Gilead, the king isn't happy with Durza's mission failure, but he does have good news, that Eragon has led him directly to the Varden's secret location. Now Durza's last chance to impress the king is to vanquish the resistance. He tells him to take the whole army and leave no survivors. At the cave the boys meet a jihad, the leader of the Varden. Eragon proves his identity by calling Saphira inside as they all watch in amazement. A jihad says the Varden healers can take care of Arya but their hospitality is not extending to Murtaugh. He's the son of Morzin the traitor. The boy swears that he's nothing like his father and always hated him, but the Varden will take no chances at a time like this. Durza has gathered an army of Urgles right outside their stronghold, wearing his fashionable armor. Eragon barely recognizes himself in the mirror and Arya is all well again, and even Saphira has her own armor for battle. Then the Urgles begin the invasion, but Eragon always finds a time for philosophical chat, so he's asking Saphira why she chose him. She tells him that it was for his heart and then she majestically breathes fire for the first time. So the battle begins. The Vardens are extremely outnumbered but doesn't even matter because the whole thing becomes a magic contest, when Durza comes in riding the ugliest dragon made out from smoke of burning flames. Murtaugh breaks free, and joins the fight just like everyone else, trying to make a difference. Durza's dragon almost bites off Saphira's head but Eragon saves her. She's wounded and weak but she can still fly him to Durza. With his mentor's sword he aims at Durza's heart, taking him down this time, along with his ugly dragon. Eragon is finally strong enough to use his healing powers, so even if it drains him till the morning, he was able to heal Saphira. His friend Murtaugh is by his side too. Having cleared his name, now Eragon and Saphira fly away as the Varden people celebrate their victory. And this is the end. So, what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comment below. And if you like this video, like and subscribe for more recaps. See you next time.